The ball left Olameso Davies' fingertips with perfect rotation. 22,000 voices held their breath as it arced through the arena lights, spinning toward the rim. The clock ticked down, 3, 2, 1, and the swish of the net erupted into chaos. The LA Blumpers had won. Again. Olameso didn't smile. He turned, jogging back down the court as his teammates mobbed him, their hands slapping his shoulders, their voices shouting his name. The commentators screamed into their microphones about discipline, about dominance, about the Nigerian-American prodigy who turned basketball into an empire. Endorsements. Investments. Private jets. At 28, Olameso Davies had everything except the one thing he'd sworn he'd never need. Trust. The locker room buzzed with adrenaline. His teammates laughed, sprayed champagne, posted videos to millions of followers. Olameso showered quickly, dressed in silence, and left through the private exit where his driver waited. No parties. No celebrations. He'd learned long ago that the loudest rooms were filled with the emptiest people. His phone buzzed with congratulations from people he barely knew. Models. Influencers. Business managers with proposals disguised as friendship. He scrolled past them all, his jaw tight. The black SUV glided through Los Angeles traffic, past billboards featuring his face, past nightclubs where women would pretend they'd always loved basketball just to get close to his table. He'd tried relationships before. 3 years ago, there was the actress who'd filmed their private dinner and sold the footage. 2 years ago, the entrepreneur who'd pitched her startup during Pillow Talk. Last year, the Instagram model who'd only wanted courtside photos and diamond earrings. Love was a liability. Focus was everything. The gates of his mansion opened automatically. The estate stretched across 3 acres of manicured perfection, infinity pool glowing turquoise, Italian marble gleaming under soft lighting, floor-to-ceiling windows revealing rooms designed by architects whose names meant status. It was beautiful. Cold. Exactly how he wanted it. His head of staff, Margaret, met him at the door. 60 years old, efficient, professional. She'd worked for him for 4 years and knew better than to ask personal questions. "Good evening, Mr. Davies. Dinner is prepared. Also, we've hired the new housekeeper to replace Maria." Olameso nodded, barely listening. Staff were replaceable. He paid well, kept boundaries clear, and expected invisibility. "She starts tomorrow morning," Margaret continued. "Her name is Carina Torres. References were excellent. She'll handle the East Wing and personal spaces." "Fine." He walked past her toward the stairs. She seemed different during the interview. Olameso paused, one hand on the railing. "Different how?" Margaret hesitated. "Grounded. She didn't ask about your career once." Something flickered in his chest. Curiosity, maybe. Or suspicion. Either way, he crushed it. "As long as she does her job," he said, and climbed the stairs to a bedroom that felt more like a museum than a home. Carina Torres stood outside the mansion gates the next morning, her hands gripping the strap of her worn backpack. She was 24, Latina with soft features and dark hair pulled into a practical bun. She wore simple clothes, jeans, a clean white shirt, comfortable shoes. No makeup. No pretense. This wasn't the life she'd imagined. 2 years ago, she'd been studying early childhood education at community college, dreaming of opening a daycare for underserved neighborhoods. Then her mother got sick. Medical bills piled up faster than prayers. Student loans became impossible. Dreams became luxuries. So here she was, cleaning a stranger's mansion because the pay was good and her mother needed medication. She didn't know much about Olameso Davies. She'd heard the name vaguely, something about basketball, but she didn't follow sports. Didn't watch celebrity gossip. Didn't scroll through Instagram comparing her life to people who lived in houses like this. Margaret greeted her warmly, walking her through protocols and expectations. The mansion was intimidating, chandeliers that cost more than her mother's house, art that belonged in museums, silence that felt expensive. Mr. Davies values privacy and efficiency, Margaret explained. He's rarely home during the day. When he is, he prefers not to be disturbed. Carina nodded. Understood. He's not unkind. Just guarded. That's okay, Carina said softly. I'm just here to work. Margaret smiled, something warm flickering in her eyes. I think you'll do well here. Carina spent her first week learning routines. She moved quietly through rooms that echoed with emptiness, humming softly to herself as she worked. She noticed things, books left open on specific pages, protein shakes prepared but barely touched, a basketball signed by legends gathering dust on a shelf. She didn't snoop. Didn't take photos. Didn't tell her friends she worked for someone famous. She just cleaned, and hummed, and left small thoughtful touches without being asked. A window opened to let in fresh air. A blanket folded on the couch where he sometimes fell asleep watching game film. His favorite coffee mug placed where he could reach it easily. Olameso noticed. He didn't mean to. But one morning, he walked into the kitchen earlier than usual and found everything exactly where he needed it, coffee brewing, protein powder measured, his schedule printed and waiting. He frowned. Margaret was good, but this felt different. Personal. He heard humming from the hallway. Soft, unself-conscious. A melody he didn't recognize. Carina appeared in the doorway, carrying fresh towels. She stopped when she saw him, her eyes widening slightly. Oh. Good morning, Mr. Davies. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. It's fine. His voice came out sharper than intended. You're Carina? Yes, sir. She stood there, calm, not fidgeting. Not staring. Just present. You don't have to call me, sir. Okay. A small smile. Mr. Davies, then. Olameso is fine. Her smile deepened, reaching her eyes. That's a beautiful name. He blinked. Nobody commented on his name. They commented on his stats, his contracts, his net worth. It's Nigerian, he said, unsure why he was explaining. Means, the crown has added to my joy. Does it fit? The question caught him off guard. Direct. Honest. Not invasive, just curious. I don't know, he admitted, then immediately regretted the honesty. Carina nodded thoughtfully. Well, I hope you find out. She moved past him, leaving the faint scent of lavender detergent and something warmer. Kindness, maybe. Olameso stood in his kitchen, coffee growing cold, wondering why that 30-second conversation felt more real than most relationships he'd had. The weeks blurred together. Olameso traveled for away games, returned exhausted, found his home maintained with quiet precision. Carina became part of the rhythm, present but unobtrusive, efficient but warm. Their interactions remained brief. Polite. Restrained. Good morning. How was your trip? Can I get you anything? She never asked about his career. Never mentioned seeing him on television. Never requested tickets or autographs. She treated him like a man, not a brand. And that unsettled him more than desire ever could. One evening, Olameso found her in the library, dusting shelves. She'd paused, reading the spine of a philosophy book, Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. You read Stoicism? He asked from the doorway. She turned, not startled. A little. My father loved philosophy. Said it helped him stay grounded when life got heavy. Past tense. Her smile softened with old grief. He passed 3 years ago. Heart attack. I'm sorry. Thank you. She placed the book back carefully. He taught me that we can't control what happens to us. Only how we respond. Olameso leaned against the doorframe. You believe that? I try to. She met his eyes directly. Some days are harder than others. There was no performance in her honesty. No attempt to bond or connect strategically. Just truth. Your mother, he said, remembering Margaret mentioning something. She's sick. Carina's hand stilled on the cloth. Cancer. Stage 3. She's fighting hard. Is the treatment working? We're hoping. Her voice carried weight without breaking. The bills are significant. But we manage. Olameso wanted to offer money. Wanted to write a check that would solve everything. But something stopped him. Maybe the knowledge that she'd refuse. Maybe the fear that money would change whatever this strange, undefined thing was between them. If you need anything. I appreciate that, she interrupted gently. But I'm okay. Really. She smiled, and he believed her. That night, alone in his bedroom, Olameso stared at the ceiling and realized something terrifying. He was starting to care. The injury happened during a game against the Boston Celtics. Olameso went up for a rebound, came down wrong, and felt his ankle twist with a sickening pop. The arena gasped. His teammates rushed over. The medical staff surrounded him immediately, their faces tight with concern. He limped off the court, jaw clenched, refusing the wheelchair they offered. Pride wouldn't let him be carried. Not in front of 20,000 people. Not on national television. The MRI results came back the next morning. Grade 2 ankle sprain. No surgery required, but 6 weeks of rest. 6 weeks off the court. 6 weeks trapped in a mansion that suddenly felt smaller than ever. Olameso hated stillness. Basketball was his language, his sanctuary, the one place where control made sense. Without it, he felt exposed. Vulnerable. Margaret adjusted his schedule, cancelled appearances, coordinated with physical therapists. But the mansion grew quieter. Heavier. The walls seemed to close in. Carina noticed the shift immediately. She didn't hover. Didn't offer unsolicited sympathy. She simply adjusted her own routine to match his new reality. Meals appeared at times that aligned with his medication schedule. The living room became more accessible, pillows arranged for elevation, remote controls within reach, books he might actually want to read placed on the side table. You don't have to do all this, Olameso said one afternoon, watching her arrange ice packs. I know. She handed him one, her touch brief and professional. But it helps, doesn't it? He wanted to argue. Wanted to insist he didn't need help. But his ankle throbbed, his pride ached, and the ice pack was exactly the right temperature. Thank you, he said quietly. She smiled. You're welcome. That became their new rhythm. She brought lunch, asked simple questions that didn't feel like interrogations. How are you feeling today? Did you sleep okay? Do you need anything adjusted? No pity. No overcare. Just presence. One evening, she found him on the couch, staring blankly at game film he couldn't participate in. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched. Bad day? She asked softly, setting down a tray with dinner. I hate this. The words came out harsher than intended. Sitting here. Useless. Carina sat in the chair across from him, not presuming closeness. You're not useless. You're healing. Same thing right now. No, it's not. Her voice carried gentle firmness. Healing is active. It requires discipline. Patience. That's harder than any game you've played. Olameso looked at her, really looked. She wore the same simple clothes, jeans, a soft sweater, hair pulled back. No makeup. No performance. Just steady, quiet strength. How do you do it? He asked. Do what? Stay so calm. Your mother's sick. You're working a job you probably didn't dream about. Your life got derailed. Carina was silent for a moment, her fingers tracing the arm of the chair. My father used to say that life doesn't ask permission before it changes. We can fight reality and suffer twice, or accept it and find peace once. You really believe that? I'm trying to. She met his eyes. Some days I'm angry. Some days I cry in my car before I come in here. But anger and grief don't pay my mother's medical bills. So I choose to show up. Choose to be present. Choose to find small moments of grace. Olameso felt something crack open in his chest. What's a moment of grace? She smiled, and it reached her eyes. Watching you make that game-winning shot 2 weeks ago. Hearing you laugh on the phone with your sister yesterday. The way sunlight comes through the library windows at 4 in the afternoon. You notice all that? I notice a lot of things. She stood, smoothing her sweater. You're not as invisible as you think you are, Olameso. The way she said his name, softly, without reverence or calculation, made his pulse quicken. She left before he could respond, and the room felt colder without her in it. Late-night conversations became their unspoken routine. Olameso stopped pretending to sleep early. Carina stopped rushing home immediately after her shift. They'd find themselves in shared spaces, the kitchen, the living room, the balcony overlooking the city, talking about things that had nothing to do with basketball or housekeeping. What did you want to be? He asked one night. Before all this. Carina leaned against the balcony railing, city lights reflecting in her eyes. I wanted to open a daycare. For kids whose parents work multiple jobs. A safe place where they could just be kids. That's specific. I was one of those kids. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. My mom worked 3 jobs after my dad died. I spent a lot of time alone. Or in places that weren't safe. I wanted to change that for someone else. You still could. Maybe. Her smile was wistful. Right now, my mom needs me more than a dream does. Olameso wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her dreams mattered. But he understood sacrifice. Understood choosing duty over desire. What about you? She asked. Why basketball? It was the only thing that made sense. He stared at the skyline. My parents immigrated from Nigeria when I was 5. Worked impossible hours to give me opportunities. Basketball was structured. Disciplined. I could control it when everything else felt chaotic. Do you still love it? The question pierced something deep. I don't know if I ever did. I'm good at it. It gives me purpose. But love? He shook his head. Love requires vulnerability. And you don't do vulnerable. No. Carina turned to face him fully. Why not? He could have deflected. Changed the subject. But something about the darkness, the distance from the court, her steady gaze, it pulled truth out of him. Because everyone I've let close has wanted something. My name. My money. My access. Nobody's ever just wanted me. How do you know? Experience. That's not knowing, she said gently. That's assumption based on pattern. But patterns can change. Can they? She held his gaze, and the space between them felt electric. Dangerous. Full of possibility and terror. I think so, she whispered. If we let them. Olameso's hand moved toward hers on the railing. Stopped. Pulled back. She noticed. Didn't push. The moment passed, but the weight of it lingered. The almost moments accumulated like debts he couldn't pay. Her hand brushing his when she passed him coffee. The way she laughed at something he said, genuine, unguarded. Catching her watching him during physical therapy, concern softening her features. The silence when they ran out of words but neither wanted to leave. Every time, Olameso stepped away first. Reminded himself of his rules. Told himself this was temporary. That she was an employee. That crossing that line would ruin everything. But his resolve was cracking. One afternoon, his phone buzzed with notifications. Paparazzi photos, him leaving a restaurant weeks ago with a model. The headline speculated about romance. His publicist called it good press. Olameso deleted the article, but the damage was done. That evening, Carina was different. Quieter. She moved through her tasks efficiently but kept distance that hadn't existed before. Everything okay? He asked. Of course. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Just tired. She left early. He watched her car disappear down the driveway and felt something close to panic. The next day, she maintained the same professional distance. Polite. Efficient. Emotionally absent. He realized, with devastating clarity, that he'd gotten used to her warmth. Her presence. The way she made the mansion feel less like a fortress and more like a home. And now it was slipping away. Margaret found him staring out the window that evening. She heard the staff talking, Margaret said quietly. About the photos. About your social life. Olameso's jaw tightened. It's not real. None of that is real. She doesn't know that. Why would she care? Margaret gave him a look that said he was being deliberately obtuse. Because she's human, Mr. Davies. And humans protect themselves from pain. He wanted to argue. Wanted to insist there was nothing between them to protect. But he'd be lying. 3 days passed in careful politeness. Carina arrived on time, completed her work flawlessly, and left without lingering. No late-night conversations. No shared meals. No warmth in her eyes when she said good morning. Olameso told himself it was better this way. Cleaner. Safer. But the mansion felt empty again. The silence that had once been his refuge now suffocated him. He caught himself listening for her humming, waiting for her footsteps, checking the clock to see when she'd arrive. His ankle healed slowly. Physical therapy sessions became routine. His teammates visited occasionally, their energy too loud, their questions too shallow. They talked about endorsements and playoff predictions and women they'd met at clubs. None of it mattered. He realized, with unsettling clarity, that the only conversations he wanted were with someone who treated him like a person instead of a commodity. On the 4th day, he found her in the kitchen during her lunch break. She was eating a simple sandwich, reading a book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Good book? He asked from the doorway. She looked up, surprised. Very. Have you read it? Long time ago. He moved closer, leaning against the counter. It's about following your dreams, right? And recognizing them when the universe conspires to help you achieve them. She closed the book, her finger marking the page. Though sometimes the universe feels more like it's conspiring against you. Your mother. Carina's expression tightened slightly. Her last scan showed the tumors aren't shrinking as fast as they'd hoped. The doctors want to try a different treatment. More expensive. Carina. I'm handling it. Her voice was firm but not unkind. I always do. You don't have to handle everything alone. She met his eyes, and for a moment, the walls between them thinned. Don't I? You do. The observation landed like a punch. Accurate. Devastating. That's different, he said weakly. Is it? She stood, gathering her things. We're both protecting ourselves, Olameso. Just in different ways. Before he could respond, his phone rang. His mother. He answered, and Carina slipped away, leaving him alone with his failure to say what he actually meant. The call with his mother was brief but pointed. She'd seen the paparazzi photos. Wanted to know if he was finally settling down. Reminded him that at 28, his cousins in Nigeria were already married with children. Mama, I'm focused on my career. Your career won't keep you warm at night. I'm fine. You're lonely. Her voice softened. I can hear it, Omomi. Even across all these miles. He wanted to deny it. Wanted to insist he'd chosen this solitude deliberately. But his mother had a way of seeing through walls he'd spent years building. There's someone, he admitted quietly. But it's complicated. Love is always complicated. That's how you know it's real. She works for me, Mama. It's not appropriate. His mother laughed. Your father was my professor. I was his student. People said it wasn't appropriate. We've been married 35 years. That's different. Why? Because you're afraid? The question hung in the air long after the call ended. That night, Olameso couldn't sleep. He stood on his balcony, staring at the city, replaying every conversation with Carina. Every almost moment. Every time he'd stepped back when he'd wanted to step forward. His phone buzzed. A text from his publicist about another event. Another photo opportunity. Another chance to be seen with someone who didn't actually see him. He deleted it. At 2 a.m, he made a decision that terrified him more than any championship game. The next day, he waited until Carina finished her work. Caught her before she could leave. Can we talk? He asked. She paused, her hand on her car keys. About what? About why you've been avoiding me. I haven't been avoiding you. I've been maintaining professional boundaries. Because of the photos. Her jaw tightened. It's none of my business who you spend time with. It was a publicist setup. For press. I didn't even want to go. Olameso. I know what you heard the staff saying. I know how it looked. But none of that is real. He stepped closer, his heart pounding. The only real thing I've had in years is the conversations we have in this house. Carina's eyes glistened. Don't do this. Do what? Make this harder than it already is. Her voice cracked. I can't be another person who wants something from you. And you can't be the person I let myself want when wanting is impossible. Why is it impossible? Because you're Olameso Davies. The words burst out of her. You're a billionaire. A celebrity. You live in a world I can't even comprehend. I clean your house. I'm barely keeping my head above water financially. We don't make sense. Since when does sense matter? Since always. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I have a mother dying in a hospital who needs me focused. I can't afford to fall for someone I can never actually have. I can't afford the heartbreak. Who says you can't have me? The vulnerability in his voice stopped her tears mid-fall. I'm scared, she whispered. Of this. Of you. Of what it means. You think I'm not? He closed the distance between them, stopping just short of touching. I've spent years building walls to keep people out. And you walked through them like they were made of paper. I didn't mean to. I know. That's what makes it real. They stood there, inches apart, breathing the same air, balanced on the edge of a choice that would change everything. Carina spoke first. What are you asking me? I'm asking if you'll take a chance on something terrifying with me. No guarantees. No promises I can't keep. Just honesty and intention and two people trying to figure out if this could work. And if it doesn't? Then at least we tried. His hand moved toward her face, stopping just before touching. I'm tired of living safe, Carina. I'm tired of being alone in a house full of expensive things. I want to try being brave. She closed her eyes, leaning into his almost touch. This could ruin everything. Or save it. When she opened her eyes, they were clear. Decided. I need to tell you something first, she said. About why I really took this job. Olameso lowered his hand, giving her space. My mother's treatment is experimental. It's not covered by insurance. I needed a job that paid enough to cover the costs. Her voice steadied with honesty. When I saw the salary Margaret offered, I took it immediately. I didn't even know who you were at first. And now? Now I know you're a man who's lonely despite being surrounded by millions. Who's kind but guards it like a secret. Who hums the same song I do when he thinks no one's listening. She smiled through lingering tears. Now I know you're human. And that's infinitely more valuable than anything else. Olameso felt something unlock in his chest. Something he'd kept caged for years. I want to help with your mother's treatment. No. Her response was immediate. That's not why I told you. I know. But I want to anyway. Not as your employer. Not as some billionaire trying to solve problems with money. As someone who cares about you and doesn't want you carrying that weight alone. Olameso. Please. His voice cracked. Let me do this one thing that actually matters. Carina searched his face, looking for ulterior motives and finding none. Okay, she whispered. But I'm paying you back. Every cent. Even if it takes years. He smiled, genuine, unguarded. Deal. The distance between them felt both infinite and non-existent. So what happens now? She asked. Now we try. The shift was subtle but undeniable. Olameso arranged for his family physician to consult on Carina's mother's case. Within 48 hours, she was transferred to a better hospital with specialists who actually listened. The experimental treatment began immediately, fully funded through a medical trust Olameso established anonymously. Carina cried when she called him from the hospital. Not desperate tears, but relief so profound it shattered her composure. Thank you, she whispered into the phone. I don't have words big enough. You don't need words, he said. Just let me be here for you. She did. Their relationship evolved slowly, carefully. No grand gestures. No public declarations. Just intention lived out in small, consistent moments. Breakfast became their ritual. Carina arrived earlier, not to work, but to sit across from him at the kitchen island while he made terrible omelets, and she laughed at his complete lack of cooking skills. You're a billionaire, she teased, watching him burn toast for the third time. Hire a chef. Where's the fun in that? He scraped blackened bread into the trash. Besides, this gives you something to laugh at. Oh, I have plenty to laugh at. She pointed at his attempt at folding the omelette, which resembled more of a scrambled catastrophe. Your basketball skills clearly don't transfer to the kitchen. Careful. I could fire you for insubordination. She grinned. You won't. Who else would tolerate your morning grumpiness? He smiled, something he'd been doing more of lately. Fair point. Margaret noticed the change immediately. She said nothing, but her knowing looks and subtle smile suggested approval. The other staff noticed too, their whispers now curious rather than gossiping. Olameso didn't care. For the first time in his life, protecting his reputation mattered less than protecting something real. His ankle healed enough for light practice. Physical therapy graduated to court work. His teammates welcomed him back with enthusiasm, peppering him with questions about his time off. You seem different, man, his teammate Darius observed during a water break. Lighter. Olameso shrugged. Just rested. Nah, it's more than that. Darius studied him. You seeing someone? Maybe. Maybe. Darius laughed. That's a yes. Who is she? Someone private. Private like low profile or private like you're trying to keep her secret? Private like it's none of your business. But Olameso smiled when he said it. Darius raised his hands in surrender. All right. Just saying, whatever it is, keep doing it. You look human again. The observation stayed with Olameso through practice, through the drive home, through the moment he walked into his mansion and found Carina in the library, reading to her mother via video call. He paused in the doorway, watching her face light up as she showed her mother the garden through the window, describing flowers in detail so vivid her mother could almost smell them. When she ended the call and noticed him, her smile didn't fade. How was practice? She asked. Good. He moved into the room. How's your mom? Better. The new treatment is working. The doctors are cautiously optimistic. Her eyes shimmered. She asked about you today. What did you tell her? That you're kind. Generous. That you make terrible omelets but keep trying. She stood, closing the distance between them. That you're changing my life. Olameso reached for her hand, their first deliberate touch. Her fingers laced through his, small and warm and certain. You're changing mine too, he said quietly. They stood like that, hands linked, breathing synchronized, the world outside temporarily irrelevant. I want to meet her, Olameso said. Your mother. Carina's breath caught. You don't have to. I want to. If that's okay with you. She searched his face, found only sincerity, and nodded. She'd like that. The hospital visit happened on a Saturday. Olameso wore normal clothes, jeans, a simple shirt, a baseball cap pulled low. No entourage. No security. Just him and Carina walking through antiseptic hallways toward room 412. She's going to ask you a million questions, Carina warned. My mother has no filter. Good. I'm tired of people with filters. Mrs. Torres was smaller than he'd imagined, her body frail from treatment but her eyes sharp and aware. She smiled when they entered, her gaze moving from her daughter to Olameso with unconcealed curiosity. Mama, this is Olameso, Carina said softly. The basketball player. Mrs. Torres' voice was weak but amused. I googled you. Olameso laughed. Should I be worried about what you found? Depends. Is my daughter just another pretty face in your rotation? Mama. Carina's face flushed. It's okay. Olameso moved closer to the bed, meeting Mrs. Torres' direct gaze. "No, ma'am. Your daughter is the first person in years who's seen me as something other than a walking paycheck." "Good answer." Mrs. Torres patted the chair beside her bed. "Sit. Tell me what your intentions are." For the next hour, Olameso talked with a dying woman who asked him questions nobody else dared. About his family. His fears. His plans beyond basketball. What he wanted from life that money couldn't buy. He answered honestly, holding nothing back. Carina watched from the corner, tears streaming silently as her mother and the man she was falling for built a bridge of trust she hadn't known she needed. When visiting hours ended, Mrs. Torres pulled Olameso close. "Take care of her," she whispered. "She's stronger than she knows, but everyone needs someone to be strong with." "I will," he promised. "I am." In the parking lot, Carina finally broke. She leaned against his car and sobbed, months of fear and exhaustion and hope collapsing into his arms. He held her, saying nothing, just being present in the way she'd taught him. "I'm sorry," she gasped between tears. "I don't usually." "Don't apologize. Ever." He smoothed her hair back. "You've been holding the world up alone. Let me help carry it." She looked up at him, mascara smudged, nose red, completely beautiful. "I'm falling in love with you," she whispered. "And it terrifies me." Olameso's heart stopped and restarted. "Why does it terrify you?" "Because what if it doesn't last? What if the real world crashes in and ruins this? What if?" He kissed her. Softly. Deliberately. Silencing every fear with the certainty of his mouth on hers. When they pulled apart, both breathing unsteadily, he rested his forehead against hers. "I can't promise forever," he said. "I can't promise easy. But I can promise I'll show up. I'll choose you. Every single day." "That's enough," she breathed. "That's everything." The media found out eventually. A paparazzi photo surfaced, Olameso and Carina leaving the hospital, his arm around her shoulders, both smiling despite tear-stained faces. The headlines were predictable: NBA star's secret romance with housekeeper. Billionaire's Cinderella story. Davies dating down. His publicist called in a panic. His agent warned about image concerns. Sponsors wanted statements. Olameso ignored them all. Instead, he posted a single photo to his rarely used Instagram, Carina laughing in his kitchen, flour on her nose from their latest baking disaster. The caption was simple. "This is joy. The rest is just noise." 40 million followers erupted. The comments ranged from supportive to vicious. People questioned her motives, his judgment, their future. Carina read them with growing anxiety. "Maybe this was a mistake," she said that evening, scrolling through particularly cruel comments. "Maybe I'm ruining your career." Olameso took the phone from her hands and set it aside. "You're not ruining anything. You're the first thing I've built that actually matters. But your endorsements will survive or they won't. I don't care." He cupped her face. "I spent years building an empire of things that don't love me back. I'm not sacrificing something real for something hollow." "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." She kissed him then, deep and desperate and grateful. Outside, the world kept spinning. Inside, they built something the noise couldn't touch. The season resumed with brutal intensity. Olameso returned to the court stronger, faster, hungrier than before. But something fundamental had shifted. Basketball was no longer an escape from life, it was part of a life that finally felt worth living. Carina attended his first game back. Not courtside where cameras could exploit her. She sat in a regular seat, 17 rows up, wearing jeans and his old college sweatshirt. No makeup. No performance. Just her, watching him play. He found her in the crowd during warm-ups. Their eyes met across the distance. She smiled, pressed her hand to her heart, and mouthed 2 words, "I'm here." Something unlocked in his chest. He played like a man possessed. 38 points. 12 assists. 7 rebounds. The commentators called it his best performance in 2 years. His teammates mobbed him after the final buzzer, shouting about playoffs and championships. But Olameso only had eyes for one person. He found her waiting outside the tunnel, away from the press and cameras. She'd been crying, happy tears this time. "You were incredible," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I had someone worth playing for." He pulled her close, not caring who saw. "That changes everything." She buried her face in his chest, breathing him in, sweat and victory and the cologne she'd given him for his birthday. "Take me home," she whispered. He did. Home became a shared concept. Carina still maintained her own apartment, still visited her mother daily, still technically worked as his housekeeper, though the boundaries had blurred beyond recognition. Some mornings she'd arrive to find him cooking breakfast, still badly, but improving. Some evenings he'd drive straight to the hospital after practice, sitting with Mrs. Torres while Carina rested, reading to her from books she loved, learning about the woman who'd raised someone so extraordinary. Mrs. Torres' condition stabilized. The experimental treatment was working beyond expectations. She'd never be fully cured, but she'd have time. Years, maybe. Quality ones. "You did this," she told Olameso one evening, squeezing his hand with surprising strength. "You gave my daughter hope when she'd forgotten what it felt like." "She gave me the same thing," he replied honestly. "I think we're even." "Love isn't about being even." Mrs. Torres smiled. "It's about being willing to be uneven and trusting the other person to balance you." The wisdom settled deep. 3 months into their relationship, the first real test arrived. Olameso's family came to visit, his parents flying in from Houston where they'd retired, his younger sister Yinka arriving from medical school in New York. They wanted to meet the woman who'd captured their son's guarded heart. Carina was terrified. "What if they think I'm not good enough?" she asked the night before, pacing his bedroom. "Your parents sacrificed everything to give you opportunities. I'm just. You're brilliant, compassionate, and stronger than anyone I've ever met." Olameso caught her mid-pace, holding her still. "They're going to love you because I love you." She froze. "What did you say?" He realized what had slipped out. No taking it back. No softening it. "I love you," he repeated, stronger this time. "I'm in love with you, Carina. Completely. Terrifyingly. No going back." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I love you too. So much it scares me." "Good." He kissed her softly. "We'll be scared together." The next day, his family arrived like a warm hurricane. His mother immediately pulled Carina into a hug that lasted longer than professional politeness required. "Omo spoke of you with light in his voice," she said in accented English, holding Carina at arm's length to study her. "I haven't heard that light since he was a boy." His father was quieter, more reserved, but his handshake was warm. "Thank you for reminding my son he's human." Yinka, 23 and preternaturally perceptive, cornered Carina in the kitchen during dinner preparation. "My brother doesn't let people in," she said bluntly. "Ever. The fact that you're here means you matter more than anything he's built." "That's a lot of pressure," Carina admitted. "It's not pressure. It's truth." Yinka smiled. And from what I can see, you handle it beautifully. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Laughter echoed through rooms that had been silent for too long. His mother told embarrassing childhood stories. His father debated philosophy with Carina, delighted to find someone who'd actually read the books lining Olameso's shelves. Watching his family embrace the woman he loved, Olameso felt walls he'd built around his definition of success crumble. This was wealth. Not the mansion or the cars or the endorsements. This, laughter and belonging and being fully known, this was everything. The playoffs arrived with crushing intensity. Every game mattered. Every possession carried weight. The pressure was immense. But Olameso didn't crack. He played with joy instead of fear. With freedom instead of control. Because win or lose, he had something waiting that statistics couldn't measure. The Blumpers made it to the Western Conference Finals. Game 7. Winner advances to the NBA Finals. Loser goes home. The arena was deafening. Celebrities packed courtside. Millions watched worldwide. Olameso found Carina in their usual spot, 17 rows up, same sweatshirt, same steady presence. She pressed her hand to her heart. He touched his chest in return. Then he played the game of his life. 42 points. 15 assists. The game-winning shot with 3.2 seconds left. Swish. Silence. Eruption. His teammates tackled him. Confetti fell. Cameras flashed. The world screamed his name. But he fought through the chaos, searching for one person. Carina met him at the tunnel, tears streaming, laughing and crying simultaneously. "You did it," she shouted over the noise. "We did it," he corrected, pulling her into his arms. "I don't do anything alone anymore." She kissed him then, in front of cameras and crowds and millions watching, and he kissed her back with everything he had. Let them see. Let them know. Let the world understand that Olameso Davies had finally found something worth more than winning. 6 months later, on a quiet Sunday morning, Olameso woke before dawn. Carina slept beside him, her hand resting on his chest, breathing soft and even. He studied her face, no makeup, hair messy, completely beautiful. She'd moved in officially 2 months ago, bringing her books and her laughter and her mother's favorite teacup that now lived on their kitchen shelf. Their kitchen. Their shelf. Their life. The mansion had transformed. Fresh flowers appeared weekly. Photographs cluttered surfaces, not professional shots, but real moments captured on phones. Carina's daycare plans covered the dining table, her dream resurrecting now that her mother was stable. Olameso was funding it. Not as a billionaire solving problems, but as a partner investing in what mattered. She stirred, eyes fluttering open. "Why are you staring at me?" "Because I can," he said simply. "Because you're here." She smiled, stretching. "Where else would I be?" "I don't know. I keep expecting to wake up and find this was all a dream." "It's real." She pressed her palm to his face. "We're real." "I know." He covered her hand with his. "I love you." "I love you too." They lay there as sunrise painted the room gold, two people who'd built walls around their hearts learning to live with them demolished. Later that day, Olameso would practice for the finals. Carina would visit her mother, whose latest scans showed continued improvement. They'd have dinner with his family via video call. They'd argue about what movie to watch. They'd fall asleep tangled together, safe in the knowledge that tomorrow would come and they'd face it together. But right now, in this golden moment, they simply existed. No cameras. No expectations. No noise. Just two hearts learning to beat in sync. Olameso Davies had spent 28 years believing love was a liability. That vulnerability meant weakness. That walls kept you safe. But Carina Torres had walked through every defense he'd built, not with force but with gentle, persistent presence. She'd shown him that the strongest thing a person could do wasn't protect their heart, it was risk it for something real. And now, lying beside the woman who'd changed everything, Olameso finally understood what his name meant. The crown has added to my joy. Not the fame. Not the money. Not the championships. Her. She was the joy his crown had been missing. If this story reminded you that real connection matters more than any achievement, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling us about a moment when someone walked through your walls. And if you believe in love that's built slowly, intentionally, and bravely, smash that like button. Because stories like this deserve to be shared. Thank you for being here. More powerful stories coming your way.